that affect our everyday lives. And of course, today will be no different. In the studio with us today, we have our brother, our comrade, Mr. Fight the Power, the irritated one himself, the irritated genie of Southeast.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Again.
Welcome to
Always.
the program. Yes, you're no stranger to the Empower Hour.
Yes.
And we appreciate that anytime we call on you,
Yes.
you come for us. So thank you so much.
Oh, what can I do? Brothers, sisters like this call on you, you gotta come. You know you gotta.
Family, if you want to get in on this discussion, give us a call, 240-455-5934. Or shoot your comments or questions right out on the stream. Hanifah's right here in front of the stream. She can read them all out. We can get you in on this discussion. Today's topic is ADOS.
And today we're going to do our best to definitely engage you guys a little bit more. Pull some questions from the comment section for the irritated genie himself.
Yes.
So we can see you. So post the questions that you have or comments.
Yes. So Genie, for those who may not know what that means, ADOS, what is that?
It's called the American Descendants of Slaves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a movement that was started by Yvette Carnell and a brother named Antonio Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, there's a website, so if anybody wants to go see it, the name of the website, so you can actually read it for yourself because they give their own interpretation of it. It's called, it's ADOS101.com. And people can go there themselves and see it. So they describe it, the way people think of it is that it's a reparations movement. It's a push to give black people reparations in America. But upon my analysis of it, that's not really where I see it going. I see it going in a different direction.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that, definitely. I did some research. I've been following it, not really in depth because I listen to Yvette sometimes on YouTube. And then I think Seren was the first person that I actually listened to. This is a sister from DC. I don't know if you remember her. She went viral over the Bruno Mars comment.
Mm-hmm.
But she's from right here in the district. I started with her, and then I realized that this is really something out of Yvette's. This is coming from this event, right? And so I started following a little bit. I had mentioned to Alkama about it, like, do you know about this? Because it seemed like it's picking up momentum. And I agree, it's interesting because the reparation piece for me came later. The part that I was looking at is the anti-Pan-Africanism that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I say that because some of the people who started it, if you listen to the rhetoric around the movement, it definitely is, like Miss Yvette herself said, Pan-Africanism is dead. You know what I mean? And that's where I kind of draw the line, because I'm like, this is an attempt for African American, and then it gets tricky with the whole African American thing. Like with the reparations, I feel like what they're trying to do is push. They're trying to, they want reparations, but it's like we want to make sure we push everyone out the way. It's like from a place of scarcity, like there's not enough. So we want to make sure we get it. And I'm just like, how far back are we tracing this to determine who gets these reparations? So based from your research, and I know we talk a little bit that you're not really for it, can you start with some of the reasons why first of all, is there anything good about this movement that you've seen?
I'll say it like this. It's a very good question. The way I view it is this. In the modern context, because things are so tricky, I'll look at it differently. If you look at their platform, are there good things about it? Absolutely. I mean, the fact that we're saying that black people should get reparations, period, is a good thing.
Exactly.
We believe we should get reparations, so that goes without saying. The issue would be, I would say, is this something that we should get on board with? The reason I say that is because there are absolutely good elements, but just like Black Lives Matter, if you ask me, are there good things about it? Sure, except the fact that the whole movement is designed for a purpose other than what it's showing. So that was Black Lives Matter. I see the same thing with this movement.
Okay.
It's a movement that on the surface looks like it's to help black people get reparations. But like you said, when you look deeper into it, if I can read this real quickly, because it's right off their website, this kind of really shows it. It's just one of those few sentences.
Okay.
We need set-asides for American descendants of slavery, not minorities. A throwaway category which includes all groups except white men. The categorization has allowed Democrats to use programs like affirmative actions as giveaways to all groups in exchange for votes. The bribery must end. That begins with a new designation of the census with ADOS and another for black immigrants. Black immigrants should be barred from assessing affirmative action and other set-asides intended for ADOS, as should Asians, Latinos, white women, and other minority groups. Now here's where I have a problem. It's right on the surface. Never, I'm 45 years old. I know somebody said, you don't look 45. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Right, help himself.
No, you look 55. No, but but here's the thing, and I think we would all agree. We have never heard black people from the African continent or the Caribbean say, black people in America should get reparations, but we should get that money. Like, it's never been an argument. We've never ever had any issue with brothers and sisters saying from outside of the U.S. That we shouldn't get reparations. I've never heard that.
Right.
And they've never said that the reparations we should get, that they should get.
Right.
So ADOS sets it up. It doesn't say that, it doesn't start with the women. It doesn't start with all these different people that shouldn't get it and it should be for African people in America. But it starts making an enemy out of black people who are brothers and sisters that live in other places that have no bone in the fight whatsoever, except that they are brothers and sisters and they would want us to get it. Secondly, even before you get there, the title and the name tells you something. Because the only reason we would be getting reparations is because Africans who were enslaved and captured and kidnapped and brought here, we're the descendants of those Africans.
Right.
So our Africanness is the very basic reason. If you're not an African and you didn't go through that, and you're not a descendant of people that went through that, then you wouldn't get this. So then why is it that they're labeling Africans as the enemy, and why don't they say African descendants of enslaved men?
I wondered that too, because that A was I was thinking, let me just say, my brain hurt after researching. I was just confused, to say the least. Because I'm like, American descendants, so I was thinking, you guys, is this group of people within the community that say, we're not all slaves, some of us, we're native to this land? If those were those people saying that, American descendants of slavery, then I could say, it makes sense.
That's right.
But if you, so I think this is where the separation is they're attempting to make a separation from the continent. That's what they're trying to do right now. You see what I'm saying?
They're doing it right off.
Well, they are doing it.
With the name,
right,
and with identifying
right.
Africans as an issue.
Right.
Then my next issue would be, and I think for me this goes deeper, because we're talking about the time, just 2019. We must know the agendas that are being pushed on black people in order to understand and evaluate anything that pops up. So the first thing is, I would say, who is coming up with this? So we look at the leadership, and I have to go to Yvette Carnell. Somebody said, don't bring that up. No, I'm going to bring that up. If the Klan started something and said Black Power 2019, and I see that name, sounds great, I want Black Power. But if I research it and find out that the Klansmen started it, I'm going to start asking questions. Because it's the Klansmen, and I know what the Klansmen's history is and what their agenda is. Yvette Carnell is the same individual when Dr. Frances Cress Welsing passed. And none of us knew this. Mm-hmm. None of us knew that the homosexuals hated Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, because they didn't say it when she was alive. It wasn't until she passed, 5 hours after it, that the homosexuals started attacking her and talking about, she was 5 hours after it was announced, and she was in the middle of the night when it was announced. Early in the morning, they said they just out there assaulting her. And Mark Lamont Hill was one of the first homophiles to jump on board with that. And then Yvette Carnell gets in and starts criticizing Dr. Welsing. Not for basic disagreements of something. Not saying, we loved her work, but I disagree with this. But specifically because she was against homosexuality. Now we have to stop and say, wait a minute. One of our greatest psychological minds we produce, our sister, you didn't say nothing about her when she was here, when she could defend her position. You wait till she passes. And the first thing you have to do is to attack this elder on homosexuality, which is a major agenda that's being pushed on our people right now. You just told me, without me asking, what your agenda is. And then, again, so that's the first sign. Well, is that a political interest you have? And of course it is, because she did that. But then in a discussion with Antonio Moore, now they're talking about ADOS. They're not talking about politics. In discussions about ADOS, she started talking about the roots. And she stated, right there with Antonio Moore, yeah, you know, the Roots got it right on feminism. For those of us that understand the damage that feminism is doing in the black community, it is a political platform that is destructive to the black family. But then she goes on and not only supports that, and he's right there with her, shaking his head. Then she goes on and rubber stamps transgenderism. They got it right on transgenders too. Mm-hmm. So now these are political platforms that are destroying the black community, that black people are not interested in promoting. But just like Black Lives Matter, under the guise of helping black lives, which we all agree on, we see the real agenda. In the same way, we see a homophile who is promoting homosexuality, has been clear about that, and in discussions about ADOS brings that up. We don't see that on the paper, but we see them isolating our brothers and sisters from the continent. Well, if they're willing to isolate people, why don't they isolate and give an open perspective on LGBT? They won't do it because ultimately, that's what this really is. It's a way to take something that's legitimate, have some good things to put on the board, just like Black Lives Matter. And then while our people get genuinely invested in something we think is good for us, they're going to switch the whole thing and swap it and make it an LGBT thing.
But here's my question. Could it very well be that she just is not so much an agenda at play, more so than she just has a sector that she is promoting or is in agreements with, or is in the LGBT community, and it just so happens that she is in support of them as well as pushing this ADOS?
No, because this is 2019, and if we pay attention to every movement that has started over the last 8 years, even since Obama, every single political platform has been one presented to us as something positive. Barack Obama. Oh, change is going to, oh my God, people out there crying. And the reality was, and the reason I'm saying this, I'm just being honest. In 2008, when he came out, I told everybody, this is a bad trick. This is a homophile. He's going to push the homosexual agenda. He's going to launch wars in North Africa. And if you think it's bad now with ADOS, this is nothing. The way I was treated then was insane. He did exactly what I said he was going to do. Not because I'm bright. It's just you got to know what's going on. You have to know your political environment. Black Lives Matter came out. I said, whoa, watch it. This is a homosexual movement. They're trying to overthrow the Mike Brown movement. They're going to take this thing and run with it. Darren Seals, we have King D. Seals, his interview where he said, man, they came in and took the whole movement from us, paying off the young brothers and taking it their own, and they killed our movement for Mike Brown. So it's a homosexual movement under the guise of Black Lives Matter. I'm just telling people early in it right now, with the receipts to show, if your political objective is not the homosexual agenda, then why are you discussing transgenderism and feminism in a discussion where you're talking about ADOS?
So my question is, okay, I feel like most people, when we talk about ADOS, I think the part as far as when the conversation gets towards like separating ourselves from each other globally, like black people globally, like, diaspora. I think people have a problem with that. I think like you just said, the reparations piece is a good thing. So if you're saying there's also this hidden agenda, is it possible for black people to maybe back this particular movement strictly around the reparation piece? Is that possible, or are they all intertwined together?
That's an excellent question. No. The reason I say that would be a bad move is because once you know that the leader is pushing this LGBT agenda and you're against that agenda, you don't have to join a new movement to fight for reparations when we have people that have been fighting for reparations since the time of Marcus Garvey.
Very true.
There are movements in place with people who've been doing tremendous work. John Conyers put in, I think in the 1970s, he put in the bill. We have things that we could do on the board to push towards that. And I'm not saying that the people who have joined ADOS couldn't do that. Like if we have a legitimate reparations push, I think that would be great. But it doesn't make sense for it. It would be like saying, can't we join Black Lives Matter and not promote the homosexual agenda? No, that's not possible.
Okay.
Because the three females who started it were all lesbians funded by George Soros, who promoted that agenda. So if you look at it now, that's all Black Lives Matter is. It's a gay, like they don't even hide it anymore.
But Jeannie, is it possible, I'm going to use my, I'm not a homosexual, but
it sounded like you were going to.
I was going to say, if I let's say I was a lesbian, is it possible for me to feel strongly and passionately about a certain thing without my sexual orientation being included in that, just me as a person. Is it possible for us to separate that, or is it going to always be, if that person identifies as LGBTQ at all, then we should dash with that agenda that they're pushing, like the thing that they're passionate about, period?
That's an excellent question. I'm going to tell you why. It's a tough answer I got to give, but I'm going to say, based on the political history of homosexuality, this is not something like, if this was before I started doing this research, I would have been like, yeah, I mean, who cares if he's gay if they believe in it? Every single homosexual I've studied historically, I'm talking about James Baldwin, Beard Rustin, Angela Davis, every single one that I've ever studied historically, invariably, at some point, change the direction and trajectory of whatever they're supposed to be doing to help black people to supporting LGBT. So the political modus operandi of the homophile is different than we think. We think because I'm Democrat and I'm Republican, but if we agree on something as black people, we can work. Yeah, you can work across those kind of lines. This is not a line that's like that.
Let me ask this question. I know we got a call. Hang in there for us, caller. Real briefly, because I want people who may not be familiar with your work and who you are. And they might be thinking, what is the concern? What is he talking about? His homosexual agenda. Briefly explain to us, why are you so adamantly against, and what is this homosexuality agenda you're speaking of?
Okay, I'll make it as quick as I'll make it very brief. From at least the 1970s, and it really spiked in the 1990s, the primary genocidal international agenda being waged by the elite against African people is the destruction of the family and genocide. But the primary form of genocide, there are multiple ones. The primary one that they're focusing on is the one that pulls the men away from the women and destroys even the possibility and potential of healthy families, and that's the homosexual agenda. And it's tied directly to child sex trafficking. So we're talking about pedophilia, that's what we call it, homophilia. Homosexuality and pedophilia are the number one primary agenda being waged against African people all over this planet.
Okay. Caller, are you there?
The men and destroys even the possibility and potential of it.
Caller?
Hello?
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 Okay, give me 1 second. Family, if you guys
Hello?
give us 1 second, caller. We're trying to get you up on the main line. Our call-in number is 240-455-5934 if you want to get in on this discussion. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. So tell us where you're calling from.
Chicago, obviously. What's going on with Jenny?
Hey, how you doing, brother?
It's all done. Listen, I want to address a couple of things that was said. I heard the sister. I want to address the sister first, and then I'm going to come to you, Jenny. All right? Is that cool?
We hear you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come on, bring it.
Okay. Okay. The first thing right now, when you're dealing with ADOS, all this is another African people that's claiming a tribe, basically like an Igbo and an Igbo, right? It's the same thing. It's just we in America and we from America. It's not necessarily divisive, but it's not divisive at all when you look at it from what the claim is trying to be made. Because the claim is about American slavery, and that's why I'm saying that it's American descendants of slavery, right? It's not, okay, so I heard the brother Wuzal will use an excellent example of how this was. So he said it like this. If me and you were brothers, Jenny, and I went to Walmart and I got hurt, you went into Target and you got hurt, I'll make a claim against Walmart. Even though we brothers, you're not going to be in on that claim, my brother. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so that's all that it is with the ADOS. The ADOS's claim is against America. And so it needs to, and when you deal with law, you need to be established as an entity. So you have to have an identity. We're dealing with specific people. We're not dealing with the diaspora, because diaspora wasn't necessarily took the same entry, hasn't took the same entry, even though colonialism is all around the world, right? That's the one thing. And so that just needs to be established. It becomes a dichotomy because you get people who are offended, And so if you can't tell me that all of these the kind people in Africa, it's over. I looked it up. It's probably more than 101 tribes. I looked up 101 tribes though. That's in Africa. Nobody's calling these tribes that they got an open door, who are not the Igbo. And it's not, oh yeah, come on, be Igbo with us. It ain't none of that, you know what I mean? And it's respected. Okay, so it's not like it's an open door policy that people get to just say, okay, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that today or tomorrow.
Okay, no, yes, sir, brother. Brother, I'm sorry. In the interest of time, let's get to your next question for Jeannie. Thank you.
Okay, Jeannie. As far as Yvette Carnell, listen, I am as conservative as you are about this gay shit. I promise you I am. I have not heard this lady speak not one iota, one word on nothing faggot, nothing gay. Nothing. And we got to deal with the fact that we just got gay people in the damn community. And as long as that's not on the top of their agenda, on the top of their tongue, she haven't even never came out and said herself. In fact, it was Boyd Watkins who put that information out on her. She ain't never came out her mouth and said, hey, so with that, I got to respect the sister because she puts it for the people, man. I don't really care who you are. You know what I mean? What you doing as long as it ain't it's not. It's really not, man.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We got your point in, and Jeannie's gonna direct it now, discuss it now. Thank you so much for your call.
Okay, so two things. The first thing, to his point, I can't agree with it at all. He's saying that the only reason that they're identifying brothers and sisters from outside of America is because that makes sense. Well, nobody else. When the Japanese went and got reparations, they never said it's not for the Japanese who are in Japan, or the Chinese that were here, or any group. The Jews didn't say it's not for the Jews somewhere. You don't identify
for the Russian Jews,
right. No group that's going for something identify what they're looking for is not for. You identify who you are and that you want it. So if we're African people in America, we would say African descendants of the Atlantic slave trade. The fact that they definitively said American and then target a group of our own brothers and sisters who've never asked for. We've never had a point in period of history where brothers and sisters from the continent or the Caribbean have ever said they wanted our reparations.
Right.
They have their own stuff to fight for.
Our reparations will come from, and I'm saying this as someone from the Caribbean, will come from a totally different entity.
So you're from the Caribbean. Has it ever crossed your mind that a black person in America would go to Jamaica or a place in the Caribbean and say, you all are fighting for your reparations, but we want some of it too?
Right.
Black people in America. So when you fought for it, you didn't say, this is for us, not for the black people in America. They're being identified because for the people who are Pan-African, I'm not Pan-African, I'm straight black pride. But for the people who are Pan-African, they have a legitimate reason to be upset, because what this movement does is, in a time when the world is globalizing, and we should be coming together and working together across national and international boundaries, they're saying, no, let's create a new ethnic group.
A new tribe.
A new tribe to have more division, and it's unhealthy.
So what do you guys suggest should happen then? I mean, if because clearly it's gaining momentum.
Yes.
And now we're talking about people, presidential hopefuls are actually out there speaking reparations. First time, it's been this much interest ever.
And I think that's where the brother that just called was saying he gave her respect for pushing it. Yeah, I think that's what he's trying to say in that sense.
And that's the problem. See, we're not sophisticated. It's 2019. So what we're really saying is, first of all, I want to say something specific to what he's saying, and then I want to point to it. She has taken a position. When you attack an elder that everybody respects, nobody has anything negative to say about Dr. Wells. I mean, I don't even know what you can say.
Right.
I mean, who can say something about that? When you have an organized assault of an elder, the moment she passes, what that means is you already thought about this. Y'all were waiting for her because she was the foundational person in our movement since the 80s who laid the term effeminization of the black male didn't come from me. It came from Dr. Wells. That's from her book, The ISIS Papers. She was the one who said this is genocidal in nature. So the fact that that group, and Yvette Carnell is one of the individuals in the group, attack her the moment she died, it shows the political interest. You can't escape it. So when he says, I don't care what her political interest is, well, that's what the problem is. Because now what we're doing is, we see what the political interest is. But now we're going to let, for something that people have been fighting for decades, all of a sudden, you just said it, now it's gaining interest. Oh, so really, we really think that a homophile in 2009 is the one who all of a sudden got black people talking about.
No, I think that's how people are seeing it.
Exactly.
Whether that's what it looks like on the surface or not, that's
right.
sort of what people are seeing. So that's where you can have someone call in and say, I give her respect for that. You know what I mean?
And that's the problem.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. Go ahead.
And that's the problem.
Come on, your question.
Could this be a good organizing tool, though, for political motivation?
Can it be used for good, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, can this whole ADOS thing, we got a lot of more people, jumping on board. Can this be used to help in other areas, or to mobilize the people politically in other areas?
I'll say it would have to happen like this. People who are serious about this would have to take this momentum and take it in a good direction. It could be used that way. But to be honest, when you look at the modus operandi of those who run the world, I won't say that because I've gotten some issues in the past, but we know those who control media and everything like this. One of the things they do is they play on the basic emotions of people and the nuances of people. So 2 things that drive people, ego and greed. Now don't misunderstand me. I'm 100% on board with us getting reparations.
Yes.
But what we see in the interest that is jumping on ADOS is not real ground-working people that saying we need to get, it's not driven in that. It's driven in greed. Because honestly, people
cut the check. That's
cut the
slogan.
check. No, exactly.
That's the slogan.
But you know what? When I was reading some articles and listening to some stuff, the thing that came to my mind with the whole identifying American descendants of slavery, right? So we're just gonna cut off the African ancestry piece. And the question that came to my mind is, what does reparation looks in the hand of people who lack knowledge of self? What does that look like?
Well, then that's a question too, because I don't see reparations as being beneficial for us in the form of money.
Oh, okay.
My perspective is the land is where the wealth is. Okay, so if we're talking reparations, give us land. Because the land is how this country was built.
But that's the issue. That's what I'm saying. So you give me land. I lack knowledge of self. Okay, I still want to be in close proximity to those who oppress me and my people and my ancestors. Right? I'm gonna sell my land, and I'm gonna move into their neighborhoods, and I'm gonna send my child to their school. The issue we're having is a mental thing. So you have people who do not know themselves on board for reparations. So it only leads me to think you think this is just about money. But this issue and this battle that we're fighting in this country and worldwide is deeper than reparations. And I think narrowing down to reparations alone is simplistic and it's naive on our part, because most of us, we do not know ourselves. Look at how they're separating themselves from the continent, from the motherland, simply for reparations. That's sick to me.
And let me just say, just because they would come back and say that's an excellent point that's made. But the agenda, quite frankly, is much bigger than reparations. That's just one little piece of it at the end. It's a very good agenda in certain areas, but you made the most important point. So, and again, we got to know the time we're in. This is 2019. So we got to know what's relevant on the board. There's no way to ignore the LGBT agenda. There's no way to ignore the person that started this, openly has said that she's on board with it, and has attacked an elder who's in the grave because she was against it. Now, here goes to your question you just said. If we're asking a question, let's take a different look at it even harder. You said, what does reparations look like in the hands of people that don't know themselves? Well, let's ask ourselves, is men being with men and women changing with women, is that African? Is that who we are? So then what does reparations look like, looking like it's coming from and being sponsored by black individuals who participate in that and promote that agenda? What are they going to do? What is the homosexual and the homophile that gets a big fat check going to do with that money? Are they going to make less homosexuality or more homosexuality? Are they going to work to mend the relationships between black men and women so that we can have stronger families and stop divorcing from each other? Or are they going to push to something that would exacerbate the problem?
Well, my whole thinking in the process is that all that, we haven't even got to the point of who gets what. You know what I'm saying? We haven't even...
Which gets messy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like, Cory Booker, everybody jumped on Cory Booker, which I am not a fan of Cory Booker at all. But he said that. He said he's not for reparations. But then when I read into why, I said he brought up some interesting points. He says, like, who gets it? What if you're a black immigrant? What if you're biracial? What if you're a child of immigrants? How do you trace your ancestry to the U.S. slavery? How do we find out? How do I know you're a descendant of a slave? How do I know she? You know what I'm saying? Who determines this? How many generations should be compensated back and into the future?
Yeah.
And he mentioned it's like a lottery winning concept. So it's like the children of. It was a study done that showed the children of lottery winners don't fare any better because their parents won all this free-for-all windfall of money. So it's like they don't, because the mind state hasn't changed. It's like going back to what you said. If you're a sick individual and somebody dump in your lap all this money, what you think gonna happen with the money? You know what I'm saying?
I'm for reparations. That part of the agenda, I'm for that. And someone made a comment. He said it doesn't matter what they do with their money. This is the issue that I'm having.
We haven't even hashed out the plan for reparations.
He's saying it doesn't matter what they do. Think about that statement. It doesn't matter what. But it matters what the rich in this country does with their money because it affects us every day. We're being exploited like crazy. Think about that statement.
I agree with everything y'all saying, but here's the trick in it. Again, it's no question that we would have to have a plan of what kind of reparations we get, and then what we're going to do with it so that it doesn't just go right back in the hands of the people that get. It could really be a huge windfall for them economically as we go out and buy a bunch of Cadillacs and Lexuses and this and the other. But at the same time, the reality of it is, the first stage is for black people to agree. Our ancestors did the work. They weren't paid. We have to be paid. I think that's reasonable.
That's
I think we should do that.
Yeah.
Now, we can figure out how we do it later. What I'm saying is before we get there, we're talking about this agenda, which is bigger than just reparations. And what I'm saying is, again, we have to be firm in understanding the political climate of 2019. If you're telling me that someone who has demonstrated, it's not speculation, I put the stuff out there so people that didn't see it now can see it, has demonstrated their objective of pushing homosexuality, which is not an agenda that black people want. And we have, with Obama and Black Lives Matter, the two major political things that have happened in the last decade, we have seen that it's absolutely devastating. It is irresponsible for us to take a third shot at the same thing. A open homosexual attacking a heterosexual psychologist who wasn't pushing anything about sexuality.
Is she a homosexual? Does she claim to be homosexual?
Well, let me say this. I won't say what she is. I'll say it like this. According to Boyce Watkins, in his interview, he said she had a white girlfriend. Or he said, or whatever you would call those people. So that's what Boyce Watkins says. And Boyce Watkins happens to be the person. The reason why we're talking about Yvette Carnell is because, again, now let me go back. Let me go back to what I said. The political modus operandi of the homophile has been to come in under one thing and then always take things in that direction. So Boyce Watkins, from my understanding, is the only reason I ever heard her name. He's the one that really brought her out and made her, introduce her to the black community. And what did he say? He said that she attacked him and started attacking Minister Farrakhan, didn't use her platform, but used his platform that he had opened up to her, even though she knew he likes Minister Farrakhan. So here's the thing. Here we're talking about the political modus operandi of the homophile group. And what we're doing is, and we're unfair to ourselves. It's not like I went and dug up something hidden in her past. All of these things are things she does publicly in favor of the LGBT agenda. And we want to wash those away and then think, oh, she's LBTG and she pushes this agenda, but when it comes to ADOS, it has nothing to do with the agenda. And we've seen that that's not realistic.
Okay, so I'm still back on the point because I hear you. I hear you, and I think that, there's a whole lot of different agendas at play, and it's like, but we still got to push through whatever we do. So if this ADOS, we can't stop it because I don't think it would be wise to stop a whole movement because one person is for an agenda that, that some of us may not be, So
even if it's the person that started the agenda.
So TJ is saying that their website answers the question, and I wanted to pull it up specifically to read it. The only criteria that they gave, because we're asking who would be able to receive it, they only gave two. Number one, the individual would have to provide reasonable documentation of at least one ancestor enslaved in the United States. Okay, and two, they would need to demonstrate they have identified as Black, African American, colored, or Negro on established legal documents for at least 10 years prior to the onset of the program. Those are the only two criteria they give.
How do you find out who if
one
your parents
ancestor that was
enslaved?
enslaved?
Yeah,
That's the one you.
Yeah. How, because I mean that
Some people know of grandparents that they'll be like, my great grandmother was a slave.
How do you determine that though?
No,
So
because
everybody got to go back.
they were living at the time. You understand what I'm saying? There are older people that would say, I remember my great great grandmother, whatever, talk about that story. She died.
So
or
we
whatever.
just state it.
I see what you're saying.
Stated information.
They're telling the truth. It gets messy after, and I think for me personally, my issue is really. It can be divisive, even if it's not intended to be. It can be divisive because we have always worked as a collective. I'm talking about the diaspora in the Caribbean and the continent. I mean, this is history.
Right.
This is history. Have always worked together because we have one enemy. You know what I mean? And instead of looking at our differences, the similar thing that we have is a political one. You know what I mean? Somebody is we're at war. Someone is out to destroy us. So when you look at history in America and the movements, all of those movements had backings in the Caribbean and on the continent. What are we trying to do here?
But I would go to something you just said. We say we have one enemy. No, we have multiple enemies. And if we look at every movement that was undermined, Marcus Garvey, who undermined Marcus Garvey? The Marcus Garvey Must Go movement. Who initiated the Marcus Garvey Must Go movement?
The divorce?
Philip Randolph, who was what? A practicing homosexual. If we look at who was fighting the Black Power, the Robert F. Williams in the independent arming ourselves in the South. Through Martin Luther King, Bayard Rustin. If we look at who undermined the respect of when the Panthers were using Nat Turner as an icon to organize our people and give inspiration. Hey, he fought slavery. Who was it that told someone to make Nat Turner a homosexual in his novel? It was James Baldwin who told William Styron to do that. If we look at Dr. Welsing, an icon, who was it that comes out and attacks her? We look at, see, this is what is happening. And I'm listening to the conversation. We're missing the key. You asked the question. Because one person is pushing an agenda, should we not do it? Well, we should ask that about Obama. We should ask that about Black Lives Matter. It's just 3 people. Just because these 3 people agree with homosexuality and pushing that agenda, should we not get involved in it? Well, we saw what happened when we got involved in it. What happened? Now they're in our schools teaching our 3rd graders under the title Black Lives Matter that they should be having anal sex, that they should be in oral. This is what they're teaching our children because we're thinking, oh, what does it matter that someone believes in this? It doesn't work that way. This is 2019. If you allow someone with this agenda to have power, which is what ADOS is doing, then we are responsible for what happens to our children who are indoctrinated by these people. Every one of us that voted for Obama, we're responsible for the little boys out there that think they're girls and the girls out there that think they're boys. We did that. Every brother and sister on the African continent who I talk to who are infuriated that all Obama did during his term on Africa was try to go to war and kill leaders there and then try to force every time he walked on the continent to the point they said, don't even come back if you're going to push this agenda. We're responsible for what's happening there and I go there, so I know what I'm talking about on the ground with young people. I just got back from Uganda. I was speaking in Makerere University. And this was the second time I heard this, and it broke my heart when I really realized what happened. The first time the sister said I didn't get it. The second time they wrote it down on paper, so I actually have the written piece I can show people. The young lady said, it's great that she's a first-year student in college. It's great that you're saying this, but You should have gotten here in my last 6 years of my life, in my former life. I was surrounded by lesbians in my schools and nobody was against it. I wish we'd have known this before now. So this agenda is permeating everywhere and we allow it because we ignore it when we see it. And that's what ADOS is.
Okay, family, we got calls coming in. Give us, caller, are you there? Yes. 1 second.
Wait, 2 people. It's 2 people.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, we can hear you, brother. Oh, sis, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, we can hear you.
What's your question? Where are you calling from and what's your question?
Okay, I'm from around the corner. I'm in Capitol Heights, but
Okay.
I'm from Northeast DC. Native foundational black woman whose ancestors built this country. I have proof. I documented my family ancestry all the way back to the 1700s. So, kind of concerned that not enough information, research information is being given on the show, as in we can't find our information, it's messy. Sister from the Caribbean, no disrespect, but you guys have CARICOM, and we fully support CARICOM's efforts in order to get reparations. I'm a grown woman, much older than Yvette Cornell and Antonio, and I do not look for so-called leadership and following. I look for information, logical information, not speculation, not what Boyd said, who was against reparations, and I've seen personally him saying that for foundational black Americans, and we can pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. And now he's done a 180 degree turn and saying that he is now for reparations, but he was against it if he wanted us to be able to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. So I'm not sure how much, credibility you're going to put into somebody that was staunchly against something, now that's for it. And like I said before, you guys know, if you're from the area, that the as far as getting information on the census, it looks like Fort Knox right now. It didn't years ago, but it currently does. So they have all the information on who is here. They have records, and I found it based upon what I was able to research through family members, elders, and on my own, up to 1700. Then I'm sure other people in the federal government can also do the same thing.
Ma'am,
They know who we are.
okay, thank you so much. I just got a question. What do you see us receiving? What does reparations in the form of look like for you?
Okay, very sure. Thank you for the question. Various levels. I think one, money, because we do have a difference between educated, and I'm educated, so irritate me. I'm all with you on not allowing our kids to be indoctrinated with the foolishness and any type of homophile agenda. I am not a homophile. I want my kids, and our kids, and my kids, because I work in the education system, in the classroom, and I want my kids to be able to grow up and have healthy families, husband and wife. I came from that. I came from that, and I want my kids to be able to come from that also. So I'm with you, brother, on that. However, I see as far as us being able to properly educate ourselves, we can't do anything like Dr. Claude Anderson has stated. We have 1/2 of 1%. This is with all the multimillionaires, the athletes, and everything else. We have 1/2 of 1% of the income coming in here. We're being systematically replaced by people from elsewhere that are black. So I don't look at it as a racial thing. I really can't. And the numbers just don't add up. I can't say, okay, well, somebody coming in that's black from England, that's from Sierra Leone, is the same as me. That's just not the case. That's not what the numbers say. So I look at the financial and us being able to set up our own educational institutions. Umar went through, I don't know what, I'm not sure what he's doing as far as setting up his school right now. But we should be able to set up our own schools and educate our youth. I see us being able to have health care, dental care.
So it's an all-encompassing thing for you, from what I'm understanding. So that reparations for you is not just money; it's all-encompassing. Thank you so much, sis. I appreciate you calling. We got to get to our next caller, but we do appreciate you adding to the conversation. Thank you. Is he there? Oh, okay. Okay, well, callers, if you want to call us back, the line is open, 240-455-5934.
Can I say something to what she just said?
Okay.
This is the type of individual who, if this was not another trick, if this was not a homophile trick, the kind of dialogue we're having now about reparations, that's what we're supposed to be doing. See, I'm not against reparations. What I'm saying is, I can identify a trick. This is a trick, because if it wasn't a trick, there's no reason for us to identify African people who are not from this country. When people go to get reparations, they don't have to do that. They just say who it's for. They don't have to say who it's not for. And if you notice the first group that it lists, when you're reading through what I just read there, it doesn't start with the women, the white females who've taken, if we want to talk about anybody who's gotten what black people were supposed to get from the civil rights movement, it was white females. They're the ones that have benefited.
According to them, it's foreign blacks that are reaping the benefits of their ancestors. That's what is at the root.
But that's at the root. But it's a lie. We all know
it is a lie.
The white female is the one who benefited from us getting bit by dogs and fighting for our rights in this country, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It's the white female that's benefited.
It's in focus.
They're not putting her in focus. They're literally taking our brothers and sisters who, look, when we get the money, if we got our minds right, where are we going to start investing? In this country? Or around the world with our brothers and sisters? Sure, we'll invest in ourselves here, but who are we going to be doing trade with? Our brothers and sisters, the one that we're saying, hey, you're the enemy, you're the one that's fighting us. It's ridiculous. If we wanted to say that there was a competitive group other than whites in this country, it would clearly be Hispanics. Hispanics are the ones who have now come in, and based on doing some of the tasks that we don't particularly want to do these days, but we could argue that they're taking those lower jobs. If we wanted to do that, they don't bring them up right in the front. How do you bring your own brother and sister up who has not complained at all about you getting your reparations up as the first line of defense of who you say is your enemy?
Yeah, to say you're not. Yeah, that's a good point. To say you're not involved, you're not invited to this party, and neither are you, and neither are you.
But are they saying specific? Because when I read some of the articles and on the website, it sounds like they're trying to say we don't have an issue with foreign blacks. We have an issue with foreign blacks reaping the benefit of our ancestors. Let me finish. And they don't really like us. That's a lot of the rhetoric that's happening around this discussion.
And my question goes to much more powerful will we be if we linked with those people who are already oppressed too in other nations?
Every movement in America has always linked with people outside of America.
African
people.
That is
a fact. That is a fact. And I'm like, okay, why can't you? We're not saying that you linking with the diaspora in the Caribbean and in Africa means that they're going to take something from your mouth.
Yeah,
that's not what we're saying.
It's fear-based, I think. Oh, let's get the caller in. Caller, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, sir, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the Atlanta area.
Okay. Yes,
Hi,
sir.
I had a question though about when you talking about the ADOS.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's not really a question. I just wanted to make a statement about it. One is, we didn't become African. When did the black man become African? 1988? And then second, who was the first slaves over here in America? And that's basically it. You know, why did the slave have more land than the slave owner? So why would we take money when we own land? 1852, we own 52 million acres of land. 2019, we own 1 million acres of land. Why would you take money versus going to get your land back? I'm confused, and it's crazy. That's all
I'm with him on the land thing, but when you said we became Africans in 1988.
If you go back,
Jesse Jackson did.
Oh,
That's what he
talking
said.
about African
I
American.
see.
If you ever do your genealogy, you will find out you was black, Negro, birth and color.
Right.
You was part of a tribe at one point. If you really go do your genealogy, you find out most of you all was Indian, especially the young lady from the island. If you're from the South, if you do your genealogy and find your relatives from Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, 9 times out of 10, they're not African. They're what they call black, because they call them black. They separate their families, the light-skinned, the dark-skinned kids.
Yeah.
Grandmamas and grandfathers own thousands and thousands of acres in all these states.
Okay, so your point as far as
They're fighting
ADOS
the wrong fight
is
for some
concerned is
He said
what?
You saying it'll be Native Americans.
Right, pretty much.
Load of crap only because they're trying to give you something for something. Like he said, it's a scam. It is a scam. They're gonna give you a little check for all your land that your ancestors own.
I'm with him
So
with
you
the
don't
land
ever
thing.
ask for it again.
That's where the
At the
wealth
end of the day,
is.
last year, 2018, you had 2,000 land claims of land that was taken.
But
There are
the platform
universities.
does say they want land. So, like,
Right,
we say
okay.
that, so the platform talks about land, but
Okay. Well, thank
That's
you so
one of
much.
the
I
ways.
appreciate that call, sir. You gave us something to go
Have a nice
on.
day. This is Coach.
All right, Coach. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
Coach.
for calling.
I just want to be clear.
True cut. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right. I want to be clear. If you go to the early 1700s, we knew that we were Africans. Like, there's no question about whether or not we're African in terms of if you go to the literature and look at what black people were writing about our enslavement, we knew we were African. It wasn't until they had a meeting, it was in the 17 or 1800s, where some black people didn't want to go back to Africa if we got out of enslavement and wanted to disassociate ourselves from ourselves, that we decided we wanted to be something other than African. But you can't even have an ADOS claim. Like they call themselves, again, I'm going to say this point, I think it's probably the most telltale sign. You can't even have an ADOS claim if you're not a descendant of an African, which means it doesn't make sense to call yourself American, because the reason that you're asking for it is because you're saying you weren't here in America.
Yeah.
You were kidnapped, you were forced to do work, you were forced to do this, and then since you're a descendant of those brothers and sisters that were captured and enslaved, you now deserve reparations, which means by definition,
those brothers
you're an
that were
African.
captured and enslaved were who?
African.
Okay.
Yeah, but according to a lot of folks, and even the guy who just called, they figure that a lot of us were here already.
Someone, and that's what I said in the beginning of the program, someone like the brother Coach that just called in,
Yeah.
I could see that person making an American descendant of slavery claim. You get what I'm saying? Not someone that's saying that you have to prove that your ancestor was a slave. From where? From where? Most of us are saying our ancestors that were enslaved were brought here, right? They were brought here and they were made slaves, right? So when you put that in there, what are you saying? You're saying that your connection is still back to, now not Coach that just called.
Yeah.
It makes more sense for people with his line of thinking to come in with the ADOS. But that's not what ADOS is saying. They're not saying we're native to this land. That's not their claim.
No.
Oh,
They show that we were captive. Like if you look at the border on their website,
yeah.
it has people on slave ships being assaulted.
Oh.
So it's clear that they don't want.
Why
it
did
is-
they say African descendants of slaves?
The point is that's why they didn't say African descendants, because it's designed. It's a design to separate us. Listen, let me see it like this: if I were white and I wanted to create confusion in the black community, what I would do is find an issue that would be meaningful to black people,
Exploited.
like reparations, let's just say. And I would create a platform, but then I would find a way in a time when the world is globalizing and people are galvanizing around race, and use the idea that you might get a check to convince you not to do what everybody else is doing and become family with your other brothers around the world. Isolate yourself in a birdcage of America, disassociate yourself, and offend your African brothers and sisters and your Caribbean brothers and sisters with a platform that should be offensive to them, and now create distance as opposed to
That was
closeness.
the issue with Garvey. Bringing everyone together, that was the issue.
Yeah,
He was a threat.
that's
a
what
threat.
my concern too. Because I heard Tariq Nasheed early on, and he took something. I think he took that down. Because I went looking for it again. Some video he had on,
no.
and him and the brother from the continent was debating.
Okay.
on live about this. And
Okay.
he was just saying that, y'all keep coming over here and taking all our resources.
You know, it's very interesting
And
that
the
Tariq Nasheed, because he tweeted something about this brother that you said put Yvette in the limelight. What's his name?
Boys Watch.
Boys Watch. He tweeted, it wasn't Boys, it was Roland Martin. He tweeted something about Roland Martin saying that, do you know that his grandparents were Haitian? But you just made a killing off of a documentary, 1805. Are you kidding me? That disgusted me when I read that tweet. I'm like, you just profited off of a documentary about the Haitianism and how beneficial it was to us Africans living in America.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Now, again,
That's
going back
distasteful.
to the divisiveness of it all, and that's the part that troubles me so much, because it's like, why can't we be all inclusive? What do you mean? A couple of dollars is enough to cut yourself off from the rest of the black nation? You know what I'm saying?
And the fact is that the people in ADOS specifically, and again, I'm not a Pan-Africanist, so I have no bone in the fight, but the fact that they state definitively that Pan-Africanism is dead and it has no value, it's like, so you're telling me that the premise of all these brothers and sisters
and all the work they've done before you,
Malcolm X, you saying the work
this was not
it narrows it down to reparations.
Thing is not new. It's not new. It's been family members fighting for this for decades.
So you're saying,
and then you jump in here and say, later for y'all, that's old time.
No, them saying it's dead is not dismissing it. They're saying it worked for that time. It doesn't work. This is a different time. That's really what they're saying. Okay. And also, too, what I'm gathering that being said is that, is it possible that they're saying, and you guys can help me out, that, because I'm listening to us, this dialogue, and I'm like, is it possible that they're saying, we're not saying that we don't need our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean and Africa. We're just saying this particular fight is for us.
No, they're not saying that.
They're not saying that.
Well,
if they were saying that, they would have never brought the brothers and sisters around the world up, because it wasn't relevant. And those brothers and sisters don't have, we've never, again, is any one of us, have you ever heard anybody from the Caribbean or Africa that lives and born there ever say that they want the reparations for black people in America in your entire life?
Right, no.
So then why would you even bring that up unless you're trying to create divisiveness that isn't there when you started?
Yeah, but it's like that, I don't know, that's a good point. It's like, anyway, I don't want to jump in, but I do want to put this out there. If the Yvette and the other brother is interested in talking about this discussion, are you open to, debating them on it?
I sure would, but I just want to be honest about it. I'm going to lay on the table the assault on Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and the LGBT agenda.
Okay.
And they will have to answer that.
Well, family out there, I don't have any direct connections to either one of them, but I know somebody out there does. So if you guys want to get in touch with them and they feel that this topic is important enough for us to all come to the table and talk about together, let them know that we're looking to possibly do a debate about this scenario.
The question that I asked, one of the brothers in the comment was saying, that's exactly what ADOS is saying, that we're not saying that we don't have a global fight, but this particular one is for us. So I guess they're saying, like the guy brought up that the Caribbean have, like, if their own reparation movement, and he's like, we supported you guys in that. So my question is, are you saying that Caribbean people should go and ask for reparations from those?
Well, from what I'm hearing, that's what's happening.
Yes.
Right? That's what's happening.
But did they ever say, but it's not for black people in the U.S.? Did the people in the Caribbean say that?
There's no need to.
If you're genuine and it's a real reparations movement, that doesn't even come up, because nobody in the U.S. is saying we should get reparations for what happened in Jamaica. Yeah. Nobody in Africa is saying that. So if you're genuine, it doesn't come up. Why does it come up?
Okay.
Right, and I'm hoping that this does springboard and get bigger, because the more Africans all across the diaspora that's asking for reparations, the stronger the whole mission will become. So I don't see that as an issue at all. But again, I would love to hear from them directly. I would love to hear from Yvette. What's the other brother name again? Antonio and Yvette. If they, I'd love to invite them on, or even do a split screen or what have you, so we can talk, so that we can hear directly from them Because right now it's more, I think that's what they're saying. They might be suggesting this.
They have a website.
I'm saying, I put the video out there.
No, they have a website. The stuff is on there for you to
access. And I put the
access.
videos out where she's talking to LGBT stuff. So it's not, the person said, she didn't say that. It's not true. Like, I don't have to debate it. I put it out there so people can watch it for yourself. Matter of fact, I want to thank Brother T. West, because he was the one that actually got the perfect receipts where she's stating it. And you can go out there and see the tweets that she did. I mean, the thing she did against Dr. Welton. So this is fact.
Well, I'm just glad that the subject matter is on the table.
I think we're going to continue to have the conversation.
Yeah.
I think mostly to just hear really what, like you said, if you're, we were here with a sister was at the movie night, and she actually was saying that she is a part of the movement. We're hearing more and more people saying that they're ADOS now, like they're part of the movement. So we're going to continue to have the conversation and try to I want to talk more with people who are part of the movement, even though I don't agree with some of it. The reparations piece I can get with, and as your sister from the Caribbean, I'm good with that. But then there's some other little things in there that you got that is being missed as well. And I think I'm with Jeannie, where it's like you have the package, and it's like, well, it's only 1% poison in there. 99% of it is good, but it's just what. So go ahead and eat. And I think that's what's happening. It's like they want us to ignore all this other stuff that is going to create messiness for the diaspora, just to focus on, they just want reparations. Let's just back them on that. I'm for reparations. I think it's owed to us.
And you were born where? And you were born where?
I was born in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And by the way, someone said in here that you have to have documents where you claim to be African American tracing back. Well, I got news for you. I was born a U.S. Citizen.
Yeah.
All my documents are checked off as a U because we are a colony. So where do we fit in? You know what I mean? Yeah. So when I saw that in the comment, I'm like, you have to have documents that prove that. But when you hear my accent, you dismiss me.
Consider
we haven't completely over time.
We haven't had any arguments about black and Africa and the Caribbean.
Yeah, because wasn't your ancestors descendants of slaves?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And we haven't had any of this kind of conflict about where we're from.
So your suffering don't matter as much as my suffering.
No, that's not what they're saying. They're saying that I can go and claim for reparations for those people who were who enslaved the slaves in the Caribbean island. You know what I'm saying? They're saying Americans in the U.S., their claim is with a totally different entity. That's what they're saying. I am not allowed to come here and claim their reparations.
But you all have done that, and we hadn't had any issue. So your movement for reparations in the Caribbean didn't create any conflict. There are brothers and sisters on the African continent that are saying Europe owed them for certain things.
Absolutely.
They haven't had any conflict with us. Why is it that this movement is created, and now all of a sudden we starting to argue and identify each other as not being part of something? It's divisive in the first word of the title, American.
We have another call, and we've run completely out of time. But if Chris, okay. We moving over time.
The babies are still asleep.
We're in the Empower After Hour at this point because we do.
It's happy hour. Did you say happy hour? After hour.
After hour.
There's a lot of comments that people.
Okay, there's a lot of comments as well. This is a hot topic. Okay. There's a caller. Give us a call, family. If you're on the screen and you want to get your comment out there, give us a call. 240-455-5934. We're going to hang on just a little while longer. We're going to give this conversation a few minutes more. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Yes, sir.
Where are you calling from, and what's your question? Very briefly.
Calling from Maryland.
Oh, okay. Maryland.
I wanted to comment on ADOS issue. This is a very divisive movement for the black community in the United States. At this point in time, where we need unity between every black ethnicity, wherever we're from, Africa or the Caribbean, whether we were born here, we need unity. But at this point in time, for someone to come with an idea such as
Brother, can you speak up? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you speak up a little bit? We're having a hard time hearing.
Yes, can you hear me better?
Yes.
A little better.
Yes, I was trying to point to the fact that at this point in time in the United States, where black people is looking for ways to be united, and that you would have someone with such a divisive interest to come up with an idea such as that presented by the English movement. I'm from Haiti. I've been here for 21 years. That's more than half of my life. I've been here more than I lived in Haiti. I've been here longer than I lived in Haiti. But the thing is, I have children. I have children who are going to identify. I identify myself as an Irish, even though I live, some part of my life in Haiti. But when I came here, I didn't even identify myself as African American or black. The police got me to know.
That's real talk.
I was in Boston. I had been here for like 1 year. I was walking in the streets of Boston. Got arrested because I identified with somebody who committed a crime that was black. That let me know that once you're here, whatever you think you are, the police will let you know who you really are in this country. So I had to identify myself in many ways as African American, because you see me, you don't know the language that I speak, you don't know where I'm from.
Right. That's an excellent point.
I am black. So these people who are Yvette, who come in, I think she may have some personal issues with some people who are from different places, who are black or from different places. I think she's more concerned about unity. She's more concerned about the fact that black people can unite here, rather than she cares for reparations. She doesn't care for reparations. She really doesn't care for reparations, because if she did, she would have presented her ideas in a way where she could have everybody to accept it without creating that kind of division.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm so sorry to cut you short. We have to have a couple more callers trying to get through as well. We got your point. Thank you so much for calling, brother. Yeah, he went. It's coming from like a place of scarcity to me. It's like, it's only enough for us. So you guys can't, hands off everybody else. So it's like, and then when he mentioned like black identity, he said, he identifies as black. He's a black man. So what about those who are black but don't identify as black? They still get reparations?
The coons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
but the ones who do
if they have an
identify,
ancestor, those are the people I'm talking about. When they get that land and stuff, what does that look like in their hand when they lack knowledge of self? But it doesn't matter to them, because it's like, as long as you can show that you have ancestors that were enslaved, then you are due that money. And I think that we might be missing. No, I don't think it's confusing. I think they're being very specific. What he talked about as far as being stopped for being black, they're saying that's separate from what we're talking about. We're not saying that there is not a fight for black people as far as black people globally. They're saying this specific fight for reparation here in this here America, North America, is ours to fight. So my question is, what part, we should be asking, what part do the diaspora from the Caribbean and the continent, or those who came here after, like Justin said, who came after his ancestors built the richest country, what part do we play? Should we be asking that question maybe? Like, how do we support you? No, this is just for the people who are in us. Right. What is it that your brothers and sisters from the Caribbean and Africa, or people who came after your ancestors built this country, what is our part in this particular fight that you guys are saying is specifically yours?
See, I would say this. I think they've been clear on that.
The caller, wait, 3. Let's get some callers in, family. Caller, are you there on the line?
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Washington, D.C. My name is Neil Smith. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Washington, D.C.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The whole thing with Yvette Carnell and Adolph, evolution. If you look at some of her early material when she was with Army, Jose Palm, who's a Ghanaian, second generation, as well as some early work with Antonio Moore, what they focused on was black political education. They showed how many of our elected representatives weren't representing our interests. They looked at the data when we talk about poverty, unemployment, health statistics, and looked at what these people were advocating for. Most times there weren't issues that were relevant to us as black people, whether it be working class, middle class, or poor. That's where their focus was. Now I think this evolution of AR because it's been something that's occurred over the last 8 months, maybe a year. And the thing is, this is not a phenomenon. Even Dr. Christine Greer wrote a book, Black Ethics, when she talks about her experience at Tufts. The fact that when she came there were 60 students. That was the highest number in the 90s of black students admitted in school. Only 6 were Native African Americans. She said at their orientation, they were asked, how many of you all were told not to hang around black Americans? And the majority of people there raised their hands. And she was in shock. She was like, I thought we were all black. She also talked about, again, many of them spun off and started their own Caribbean groups.
Yes.
Continental African groups. And there's nothing wrong with that.
It's true.
But what's happening is they're also being admitted to a lot of these universities over Native African Americans. And some admissions represent they prefer that because they're less political. And that's where this whole thing came in, where they're looking at, hey, how do we make sure that things that we fought for during the 60s and 70s, that those people who are Native Americans, Native African Americans benefit from that? Because that's the game that's being played with us. As well as the fact that we got leaders in office right here in D.C. They don't do anything for black people.
Good point.
That's actually how I learned about
one good example she gave
what
that.
he's saying, not the reparation movement.
Go ahead, brother. We can hear you talking. Oh, oops, I'm sorry. We haven't cut off. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Terry Sue, Representative Alabama, which is North Alabama, which is the black belt. The UN recently came here last year and said this is one of the worst conditions they've seen. They're like third world living conditions.
Yeah.
Right? You go to her, the representative page, she's talking about DACA, she's talking about LGBT rights, all this stuff that has nothing to do with addressing the things that are going on in her district. They had a hookworm outbreak there.
That's what you
something they thought was eradicated. She's not talking about infrastructure improvement, which would also provide jobs. So I think we need to take a step back and kind of unpack this because we're not looking at some public policy issues there. We're in part now in a situation where black people are just being totally ignored.
Yeah, and thank you again. Thank you so much. You brought up some excellent points, and you know it's hard to go against anything that what you said.
I just want to say something. It's real critical, but he just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Right. So, what is the primary thing that? Matter of fact, they're about to have a meeting that they're organizing right now for the black political infrastructure in this country to do what? To pass a bill, HR 5, that would literally make it illegal for you to stop a male from going into a girl's bathroom. So this is what the black political officials are doing. He's
you
correct.
saying give them an inch, they're going to take them out.
Well, what I'm saying is that's what they're doing. And the person leading ADOS has publicly come out and rubber stamped transgenderism. So how can you separate that from this platform?
Yeah, and I think about the civil rights movement and how what happened there. What about the benefits that we're seeing today from that movement?
White females have taken the primary benefits that have been received from what we fought then. And one of the individuals key in destroying that movement was Bayard Rustin, who at a time when all black people were in agreement with one thing. There was no greater agreement that if you look in the civil rights area, there was one thing everybody agreed on. Ocean Hill, Brownsville, when the black student people in New York, Brooklyn, New York, said, we want to control our old schools. NAACP, every group of black people agreed with it. Who was the black person that they got against everybody to say, no, black people shouldn't have their own schools? Bayard Rustin, who was Martin Luther King's advisor for a very long time, who put a crack in the civil rights movement. And what we're doing now is, as if we don't know the history, we have someone coming out telling us they're for transgenderism and then saying they want to do some ADOS, and then we're folding into it because they got some great ideas. We can take those great ideas and we can use them for ourselves without accepting that agenda.
Caller.
We take 2 more calls, she said.
We can take 2 more calls. Caller, are you there? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm sorry, give us 1 second. Keep talking, we're gonna get you going up.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
We can hear you a little better.
I want to know one thing. Are you discussing what the mission of ADOS is, or are you discussing what the city has a problem with as far as gender? ADOS is an educational movement that has nothing to do with politics, gender, orientation, or generation. I'm 60-some years old. I've done a lot of research. I don't give a darn about whether or not my ancestor is gay or whatever when it comes to reparations for harm that has been going on since supposedly Angela set foot at Fort Comfort 400 years ago come this August. Now, I don't understand how somebody's gender orientation keeps getting woven into this thing that supposedly existed about ADOS. And I'm going to give you a quick analogy because I love the expression on the stage. And I studied him just like I studied Black history for 60 damn years. Let me explain something to you. This supposed kumbaya over diaspora. Nobody in America raised hell when I was a teenager and we advocated for the end of apartheid. We saw the need for a global fight against white supremacy. But you cannot sue or defend or fight white supremacy without going to a specific entity that created the choice. Now, you don't have to believe me, but you can follow some of the work of Professor Gerald Horn out of Houston. You can look at the reparations fight that has been fought right here in U.S. courts when they've been thrown out for what? No standing. And we've been told as a people that we had no way of establishing that standing. But for younger people like you, with the advent of technology and the quote, digitalization of records of our people as property, as census, since they started the census in the late 1800s, you can now go back and prove that specific choice. Now, I'm going to say this again because it's very important. If we as a people are going to find a way to craft the reparations, and I'm going to help the Genie with this, this has nothing to do with some of the lesser involved people talking about cutting the check. This has to be with something that you people may understand of how you view this analogy. In 1948, there was a partition of land that displaced the people from their land and created the nation state of Israel. The money started flowing for reparations to the Jews about 1952, a year before I was born. You all also know that the first black president of the United States actually helped disperse about $12 billion in reparations to Jews in Israel, not to mention what we do with our military budget, to what? Compensate them for injustices done along the way. What does that translate to for the young men that are worried about somebody's sexuality? It translates to there is a proven way to give generational reciprocity, reparations, training as a protected class of people who have standing in court for the same thing you all may not even envision 10 or 15 years from now. Because I'm going to tell you, I raised the black kids, boys green, black and red, did it in the military, was trained with U.S. taxpayers' dollars. I've seen the evolution of this whole movement be destroyed by people that want to focus on what your religion is, what your sexuality is. None of that makes a difference for reciprocity for a people. For a people.
Okay, ma'am.
I don't care if you think sexuality has nothing to do with Afro religion. I can tell you this. At my age, I'll tell you what my father told me at 4 years old. If you believe in a higher being,
the good Lord had to figure out everybody has enough behind to pay for whatever ill they do. It is not my concern what your gender preference is or any of that. I'm worried about reciprocity for the crimes against humanity created against my people.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, we're gonna have to cut you short. Unfortunately, I hate to cut you off, but we have, in the interest of time.
I gotta
Let me get Jeannie to respond to that. Thank you for your call,
ma'am. I'm glad you put what you put on the table because this shows the political immaturity of black people. You brought up not the first black, the first mulatto president of the United States, Barack Obama. Well, let's look at it. I told people before he got there, he is a homophile. He's going to not serve the interests of African people. And since you're talking about reparations, here's a homophile promoting homophilia. The first thing he did before June 2009, when he made June officially LGBT month, before he did that, you know what he did? He boycotted the Conference on Racism. I have the Washington Post article. I put it out there. And guess why he said he did it? Until they take reparations off the table for black people and stop saying that Israel is racist, we're not going to go anymore. So here you go. Yep. So then you're saying it doesn't matter your sexual preference. Well, his sexual preference is for males. He's promoting homosexuality, and he's the one who took trillions of dollars that should have gone to black people and gave them to the bailout bankers, the same ones that were doing subprime loans in the black community. The political modus operandi of the homophile, like Barack Obama that you just brought up, is to fight against reparations for black people and push the LGBT agenda. If you don't understand that, you understand nothing.
She mentioned, too, that he gave reparations to Israel. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Obama did that.
And he pushed the LGBT. So she's saying it doesn't matter. Yes, it does, because he's the only president to ever openly push it on the level he did, and it's the same president who officially said black people don't get reparations.
Well, I think when people say, I think I'm speaking for people, when they say, I don't care what people's sexual orientation is, but why is it that so important though?
Because
what
again,
people's sexual orientation is.
If we're talking politics, which we're talking now, the number one priority politically for the undermining and the genocide of black people internationally is to push pedophilia and homosexuality. If you don't understand that, then you will trade off the well-being of your children for this agenda so you get a check so your son cannot want a girl. What do I matter how much money he got in economic information that he has in learning if my son doesn't want a wife and bring me grandchildren? If I can't have a family?
She made a comment and said that ADOS was not political. I beg to differ.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, this is more. You can't get no more political than that.
Yeah.
You can't.
That's the one I disagree with her. That when I heard, I was like, no, yes it is.
Yeah,
it was political.
Yeah, I do. I agree. This is definitely.
That was a guy.
Huh?
That was the guy.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that right now. You go to the next
You know what? Yeah. I think we're gonna have to end it here.
Yeah, we need to
we're
wrap
gonna
it
have
up.
to end it here. So, is one more call? Okay.
Okay.
Caller, we're gonna take one more call. We're gonna end this conversation, and it's a hot topic. We're gonna have to bring you back, Jeannie, because you can see.
Oh, we're trying to find someone that's a member of.
Get
I
ADOS.
would love to have. Please, family, help us
sister
out.
here.
Who knows
her.
Yvette or Antonio? Let them know. We'd love to have them on the program so we can get better clarity around this subject matter. Caller, are you there?
Oh, I'm here. Hello, how y'all doing this afternoon?
Hello.
Where are you calling from? And
Hey,
what's
I'm
your question or
I'm
comment briefly?
I'm calling from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Listening to this, man, it seems like a lot of people we've been letting the wrong people tell our story, man. Because if you really probably should be looking at Pan-African as an ethnicity in itself, and designating that as a race, because when you know the slave trade, you know we come from all over Africa, and the way you got sold based upon where your ship landed over here, you could be from Jamaica, like booked my daughter, and we sold down to Haiti, and then we sold back up to Florida.
Good point.
So just to make, so trying to make a separation from all of us, it's just dumb in itself, because the slave trade was a major industry that affected many, many nations. So if you get away from what Marcus Garvey was doing, raising that red, black, and green flag that's recognized by over 52 nations across the globe, it's just now that's just dumb. That's taken away from total progress that was already done.
Good teaching.
It's like walking in circles, man.
Good teaching.
We're all the same people.
Good teaching.
We shouldn't even be calling them Jamaican or us American. We're all Africans.
That's right.
We probably should be looking. We probably should just be looking at Pan African as a ethnicity in itself, instead of just as a national movement.
Good point. Excellent point. That's my point. And Garvey, going right back to Garvey, where was Garvey from?
Jamaica.
He wasn't even from. But look how much benefit he gave to us here in this land in America.
And you know what's so deep? He learned his skills in printing in England, and then he came to America. So Garvey was all over, but yet he helped all Africans everywhere.
But to the guy's question, where he said we were just dispersed at different places. I think to the website, based on their website, it's saying that, let's say someone that went back to Florida and then was transferred back to the islands, let's say they had kids here in America, you know what I mean? They're saying, so if my ancestor, my great-grandmother, right, came from the Caribbean, and then she ended up in Louisiana somewhere, okay? But then now she started a family in Louisiana,
right?
Okay? That family, her offsprings, will be able to show that she was a slave. So they will have claims to the reparations. That's what they're saying. You get what I'm saying? Okay. And I think that we're throwing, what they're saying from their website, from what I read, is that they don't want all of these other things lumped in, as far as police brutality and all, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. They're just trying to say the focus is reparations, and this is our fight, and no one else has claims to it. But no one is claiming that.
Nobody's claiming it.
No one is.
Yeah, that good stuff, family. I don't want to get into Judge Joe Brown real quick before we get off. Let them know what's coming up this Saturday at Everlasting Life.
Judge, you want to come out to this. Judge Joe Brown is going to be coming out this Saturday. He's going to be talking about the war against manhood and how this country is trying to literally destroy every vestige of manhood. And as a black man, he's going to talk about that from a perspective. And I didn't know that I've actually had a chance to meet the brothers and sisters. You want to come out. It'll be Saturday, 6:30 p.m. It's best if you go online now and get your tickets at the website. It's on eventbrite.com. You put in Blueprint, Black Power Blueprint. And then you can go up there and get your tickets for this Saturday, August 20th, for Judge Joe Brown. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be phenomenal.
And that's right here at Everlasting Life. And actually, coming up this Tuesday, the 23rd, we're doing a debate called Are We Black People? Debate between Taj Tariq Bey, which is the Moor, and Brother Edward X, who's a brilliant historian. So a great, brilliant scholar, brilliant historian. They're coming together. We're going to debate this topic. Are we black people? You want to get your tickets for that. Again, that's at Everlasting Life this Tuesday evening, starting at 7 p.m. Tickets online. You can get that at rweblack.eventbrite.com. Family, this has been a very lively discussion. We went way beyond our hour. You are now in the after hour. So, but Hanif and I do this. We do this each and every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. We come to you with impactful topics of discussion, much like today, that affect our everyday lives. We implore you to tune in with us. Tune in each week. You can catch us on Facebook under Empower Our Talk Show. You can find all of our pre-recorded, uploaded episodes on YouTube under Miss Free the People. That's spelled MS Free the People. We're attempting to get our numbers up there too, so we will be thrilled if you would subscribe to that channel for us out there. You want to say something? Oh, okay. Hanifa, you had anything to share?
No.
No?
No, I think this is a great discussion to have, because I think that we need to start talking about this now, because the movement is pretty much a new movement, but the momentum that is picking up. I also think that a lot of what's involved in this on the line is a lot of hurt.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about that. There's people who genuinely feel like jobs are being taken from them. And when I hear the rhetoric around it, I have to look and realize, are these black people? Because this is like what we say white people are saying and they're afraid of. And I'm like, this is the same rhetoric that's being spewed right now. So it's a great conversation. I learned a lot, and as we were talking, it started I'm like, maybe they're just saying just reparations. So I'll continue to, do my research about it, learn more about it. I do not agree with the part that's divisive, but I get the reparations piece.
Yeah, and I'm caught in the middle. I'm for reparations, no doubt. But I just want us to all be together collectively.
Can we all just get along?
I see they call me Mother Teresa. I mean, that's just my focus. We gotta get more unified. So that's my whole goal.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say to everybody out there listening, I've done this before. I'll do it one more, but it's no longer acceptable. We are in 2019. The only primary political objective that is being pushed on our people now is the homophile agenda, the acceptance of homosexuality and pedophilia, and it's an international agenda. No matter what comes up, there's a simple mechanism to use to determine whether or not you want to look further into a movement. What is your position on homosexuality and pedophilia? And if they cannot give you a definitive position that is un-African and not good for black people, it is not worth participating in.
That is the Irritated Genie of Southeast, family. You can find him on Facebook as well under his page and his YouTube and all his lectures. He has many of them on all different types of subject matters out there if you want to know more about this brother here. All right, family. Until next week. And a special shout out and thank you to Chris Murray in the background for holding us down.
That's right.
The best technician ever. Get her up.
Extraordinaire. Technician extraordinaire.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. All right, family. Take care of each other. Peace.
Straight Black Friday.
You heard that? The bank.